everyone, Fox is here, and I'm bringing you another weekly wrap-up. This wrap-up is for the period between August 8th and August 21st, and as you can tell, it's also for 2 weeks. The reason for that being, after I finished Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, I wanted to read only fantasy, and I also didn't feel like reading multiple books at the same time. So during the first week of this wrap-up period, I was only reading Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb, but I did not finish it. This book is humongous. It's honestly really dense and really thick, and even though I'm really enjoying it, I wasn't able to finish it in 1 week, and after 1 week I realized that this is gonna be a wrap-up for another 2 weeks, just because, if you don't read anything in 1 week, what's the point of making a wrap-up, right? I'm sorry, I'm just rambling here, but I just want to talk about everything else that I read during the second week. So, let's get started. I read one novel and a couple of graphic novels, and I would like to start with graphic novels first. So, the first graphic novel that I read was issue number 1 of the series called The Spire, and this is by Simon Spurrier. I hope I pronounced that right. But this is a very interesting graphic novel, and to be honest, I didn't know how to describe it. I can only tell you that I found it through tags on Hoopla, and I downloaded issue number 1 and I read it and I enjoyed it, but I cannot really even summarize what is it about. It is a very sci-fi world mixed with magic. Yeah, I'm completely failing at describing this, but it is a blend of sci-fi and magic, and there are different races that exist in this world, and our main protagonist, she's not human, but she is trying to find a killer who is like a serial killer who's killing non-humans. And there is also some other stuff happening. There is a bit of romance in there too. Our main protagonist is a queer character, and there is a lot of humor in the story as well. But it was so bizarre, and I read only issue number 1, so it was very short, just about 30 or 40 pages. That's why I don't really have a very good grasp of the story itself, but there is magic, there are other alien creatures, there are queer characters, and there is a murder mystery. That's pretty much it. And also artwork is pretty cool. I'm looking forward to reading more issues from this series, and I gave this issue number 1 4 stars. My review was just one line on Goodreads saying that I have no idea what's going on, but I like it. Next, I read volume number 2 of Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is a sci-fi robots mechanical manga, and I really enjoyed volume number 2, and I want to address something that I mentioned in my previous wrap-up because I made a mistake. Just because I didn't know that, and I assumed when I started reading the manga that the manga came first and then they produced the anime, which I watched back in whatever, like 20 something years ago. But it turns out that the manga came second after the anime. And usually it's not the case. Usually you get manga first and then it gets adapted into anime. But for this one, and I found it out just basically by googling some other stuff, it turns out that the manga, it kind of followed very closely anime as well. So they released season 1 and then the volume number 1 came out. But because of that, there was an intentional difference between anime and manga. So whatever differences I see in plot, they actually came from intention, from like giving more backstory to the characters, giving like basically just enhancing the whole experience. And I still am very new to manga itself. I read only 2 volumes so far, but I'm really enjoying it. And like I mentioned before, I'm enjoying the manga way more than I'm enjoying that I enjoyed anime back in the day. It's so much fun if you are into sci-fi, if you are into manga in general, and by some chance you have not read this manga yet, please pick it up. The action takes place in Tokyo in 2015, which is super hilarious. And if you liked the Pacific Rim, the movie, you will like this manga too, because it also has to do with alien creatures that are called angels. they are invading Earth, and so we have protagonists that have to pilot these certain huge machines which are called Evas. Yep, you can tell why there is like a biblical reference here. But if you enjoy any sort of sci-fi, you'll probably like this one. And volume number 2 was very nice. I liked it. I gave it about 4 stars. And the last graphic novel that I read in that week was Wreck Queens, volume number 3, which is called Demons. And I did enjoy it, even though some time passed between me reading volume number 2 and number 3. That's why I kind of forgot how volume number 2 ended. I couldn't really recall it, and I remember that they had a very epic battle, and they were wounded, and then, for whatever reason, volume number 3 starts with them being in captivity, which I could not really remember anything about. I did enjoy this volume, even though I know that there is a bit of controversy surrounding the series. Nevertheless, I'm still enjoying it. I give it about 3.5 stars. The only reason for that being, even though I do love the fact that we are getting more backstory to all of the characters, especially Betty in this volume, and Betty used to be my least favorite characters, especially based on volume number 1, but in volume number 3 I actually got to see a different side of her, which was very nice. I liked it, and I also liked all the action, and I absolutely love the art in the story. The thing about this volume though, and I had a bit of a problem with that, not only because it's been a while since I read volume number 2, the other reason was that the action seemed to be really, really jumpy. So it was basically jumping between pages, and on one page you'll see something happening to one protagonist, and then the other page would be something completely different, even though the art and the way they put things on pages make it very easy to follow the actions and the actual plot. The fact that it was so jerky and it was basically flipping between, scenes really annoyed me. I think it works very well on TV, and like those TV shows, especially it reminds me of day TV, where you get all of those, Young and Restless type of TV shows that do very short scenes and flip between them really quickly. Basically on the point, to the point that the characters get just a couple of lines, and then we switch the point of view and we see something else happening. And that annoyed me in this volume. I honestly do not remember if that was the case for other volumes. Not that I recall, which means probably not. And that's why I'm giving it about 3.5 stars. Still, the art is amazing, and I'm loving the art so much that I just want to read it more and more and more, and I just really love it. And the last book that I read last week was this one. This is Queen of Hearts by Colin Oakes. And oh boy, I have a lot to say about this one. This book is a sort of retelling of Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. This is about a girl, a princess named Dina. All she wants in life is to gain her father's approval, and she wants to marry the boy she loves. This is what is the premise of this book, and I had a huge problem with this book, mainly because it is targeted as YA, but unfortunately the simplicity of the language and the style and the way the author uses exposition throughout the book makes it seem as if for say middle grade. It doesn't read like YA at all. It reads like middle grade because the language is really, really simple. I think my main issue with this book comes from the fact that we are never explained why certain things happen in this book, and even though sometimes being left in the dark is a good thing plot-wise, but in this case we have the king who passionately hates his daughter, and we don't really have a reason for it. Whenever Dina has to face her father, the King of Hearts, she is petrified. She is petrified to the point that the whole book starts just with a scene where she goes into hysterics because she doesn't want to enter the hall where her father is waiting for her. We're never explained why she's so petrified. We don't know why he hates her so much. The King of Hearts seems to be unjustifiably cruel towards her, and there is really no reason behind it. There are a lot of deaths, somewhat unnecessary deaths happen in this book, which really do not make much sense plot-wise. I mean, in some ways they do, but unlike with Alice in Wonderland, where we take whatever is happening with Queen of Hearts and how she executes everyone and chops off heads like all the time, we understand that is a grotesque, that is a parody, that it's not real. This world, the way it is presented to us, is presented as a real world, and even though the world itself is very well written, and I did enjoy the way where we get the descriptions of the castle, of the woods, of the creatures that live there. We get a lot of information that we didn't have in Alice in Wonderland, obviously because it's a different book, but I did like the whole background. I like the world. What I did not like was that the characters were too, I don't want to even say two-dimensional, because for me they were basically one-dimensional. Dina is overcome with fear. Her father is overcome with hatred. Some other characters are also either too fearful or way too nice, and some other characters are way too cunning and way too sly. They all seemed to be grotesque versions of themselves. When you see characters who are not two-dimensional, there is really nothing to it, because you right off the bat know, oh, this is a bad guy and you can expect all the bad things from them, or this is a good guy, so he's going to help our main protagonist. And this is it. Obviously, this makes the whole narrative really boring. Really boring. What's the point of it? There is no point whatsoever. I expected this book to be very good. It is really short. It's about 300 pages. It reads super fast. Like I said, the whole language makes me feel as if this book is written for middle grade instead of YA targeted audience, and it's super simple. It's like really boring. I was reading, and honestly to God, nothing happened till middle of the book, and then some other stuff started to happen, and it was cool. The final 20 pages finally had something happening, and I was like, yeah, finally some action going on. And then the very last page, and obviously I'm not spoiling anything, but I just want to say that the very last page killed all of my hopes for one of the characters to be a double agent, sort of like, having some other agenda and thus being two-dimensional instead of being one-dimensional. But unfortunately, that last page killed all of my hopes. I gave this book 2 stars. I was really disappointed, and I know that there is a very similar story which is coming out very soon, and that is Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I have not read anything by Marissa Meyer yet, but I heard very good things about Heartless, and supposedly Heartless is a standalone. This book is not. This is book number 1 in the trilogy, and honest to God, I have absolutely no idea what can you write in book number 2 to make me interested in the story. I'm not saying that I will never read a sequel. I got this book from the library, so I will wait to see whether book number 2 ever gets available in my library, and if it does, I might pick it up. Definitely will not be nowhere near top of my wish list, but this book was so disappointing, and you know what? After reading it, I was like, okay, this is what I picked up to relax my brain and to kind of get me through, that really dense book by Robin Hobb. And after reading this, I I was like, why did I waste my time on it? It's just a waste of time. Honestly, it is. And it could have been a very good book, but the fact that every single thing was explained to us in small bits. And when I say explained, I mean when we see a character and we consistently are told that this character is very lonely, then turns out that she has a friend, and she knows that person from her childhood, and you go like, oh yeah, she's not alone. And then the next paragraph explains how she has a crush on him, and then you go like, okay, well, this must be something like a crush, something that she's hiding, blah blah blah. And then another paragraph goes and we learn that there was actually something that happened that gives her an actual hope for love affair. And you go like, what the hell is that? Seriously, make up your mind. And this is how basically exposition works for me. And we are consistently being told things instead of being shown. One of the things that could have been improved in this book is that for us to be actually shown through people's actions or through a dialogue, whatever information we were being just fed. And I really did not like it. It was so simplistic. I have a feeling that my 15-year-old self would have been really frustrated with this book. So unless you are younger than 15 years old, you might like it, but I did not. I'm sorry. 2 stars, gorgeous cover, and very good premise, and I love the world, so it's not a 1-star read. Plus, I finished it. Whenever I finish a book, it is at least 2 stars. So yeah, here we go. This is my review. Okay, this is it. This is everything that I read in those 2 weeks. Another thing which I didn't want to show you because you've seen work in progress, but I did finish that 1 page in my coloring book. So yeah, here we go. I'm sorry, there's a lot of glare, but here's the page. As you can see, my lovely dragons are done. And it turned out really green. I don't know why, but I haven't started this one yet, but I really like this one. So yeah, this is everything that I did in those 2 weeks. I'm still reading Robin Hobb, and I started listening again to The Night Manager by John le Carré. I have less than 3 hours left, which makes me super happy because I've been listening to that audiobook for months now. But I'm really excited about it. So I'm back to listening an audiobook, and I have Robin Hobb to finish. I don't think I'll finish it anytime soon, but I'll try. And there is also another book which I started recently. I started it just yesterday, but I'm really enjoying it, and that is Trial by Fire by Josephine Angelini. I think it's a very underappreciated YA fantasy book because honestly I didn't hear anyone talk about it. But this is book number 1. I read about 100 pages. I'm really enjoying it, and I hope to review it for you next week. Well, this is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye! So, I was reading only 1 book. I cannot talk today.